It's the Redirect Podcast, search industry research, discussion, and analysis from the Black Truck Media and Marketing Headquarters. And now, redirecting you to the Black Truck team.
Welcome to episode 49 of the Redirect Podcast. It's Friday, June 15th, 2018. I'm Jason Dodge, founder of Black Truck Media and Marketing. I'm joined this week by Ashley and Patrick from the Black Truck team. Hey, gang.
Hey.
Hello.
We took a week off.
Yeah.
I was gone. SearchLove Boston. I'll talk a lot more about that in a bit here, but we took a little hiatus there with various business travels and stuff, so it's difficult to sit down together as a group. And let's be real, it doesn't sound the same unless we're all sitting in the same room.
That's right.
You know. A lot of things moving and shaking, though. I heard a lot of great things that I'm gonna share a few bits and pieces that I took away from SearchLove on this episode. SMX Advance out in Seattle was this week. A lot of chatter going on there in the industry. We are headed to MozCon in July as an entire group. I don't know if we'll get fancy and record while we're out there, but if the microphone finds its way in my bag, maybe we'll make that happen. So
that friend of ours from across the pond, I imagine he could be an interesting contribution.
Totally.
Especially if it's after hours.
I think we're gonna get him on. We have the outtakes coming up. Maybe I don't know, but I think we'll have Andy coming up on a future episode here too, amongst a couple others that have confirmed, but I'm not going to tell you who they are yet. So, but really great other industry professionals. So, Pat, you said you had some nitty gritty you wanted to.
Yeah, I want to talk about following the rules
of.
Yeah, let's
get left and right.
Exactly. Talking about getting to work on time, washing your office plates.
That's good. Everybody's here, so on time.
Washing out your skunky beer bottles when you leave them on the counter. I want to talk about AdWords automated rules.
Something you've been playing around with more and more.
I accidentally discovered they exist. It started off when I inadvertently overpromised on a campaign concept. A client of ours has several events planned out in the next 90 days.
Oh, yeah, a lot of events.
A lot of different things coming on that are weekend events, weekday events, various times, different audiences. And I was like, I'll just create a separate campaign and set up scheduled ad groups inside. So I made this campaign and I started building ad groups. And I was like, hey, Jason, where's the scheduling for ad groups? And you're like, I don't think we can do that. I'm like, let's go down a wormhole. And everything I found said that that option doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, right.
It does not exist. You can't just simply go in and schedule an ad group to start on Wednesday and conclude next Thursday.
Typically happens at the campaign level, which is what most people know.
Yeah. So everything I found said it didn't exist. Searching all over the place, finding no solution. I stumbled across an old AdWords forum with the Q&A stuff.
Oh, 2012?
Yeah,
helpful articles?
Old interface stuff. In kind of Google's defense, the new interface has only been around for less than 12 months. So a lot of legacy content out there for that. But I found a thread where someone asked basically that exact question, and all the answers said, no, you can't do that. The best answer was chosen, and then basically it was set by the wayside, it was forgotten about. And years later, a guy commented and said, oh, no, you can totally do that. Just set up a rule, an automated rule. Here, this is how you do it. And then very shortly thereafter, an admin came in and commented right behind him, said, hey, man, this is an old post. No one's going to see it. Take your great answer somewhere else.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And I was like, this is weird. So then I started trying to find it more, and there's no information out there on how to set up these rules on the new interface or where it even exists, because it used to be loud and proud and prevalent on the old interface, according to all the great things I found in the old one. But it's actually not really that hidden in the new interface. You just basically go up to the wrench at the top, and in the wrench under...
You want to walk us through this?
Yeah,
there's probably a new version of AdWords available.
Yeah, new So in the wrench at the top, and then, gosh dang it.
The gear.
Yeah,
actually.
the gear. No, it's the wrench, not the gear.
The wrench, right, for reporting and things like that.
The wrench up at the top. Yeah, and the wrench under bulk action. The second option down is the rules. Inside rules, if you have any pre-existing rules established, they'll be in there. But the options that you have to make up these custom automated rules can be campaign, ad group level, keywords, ad rules, like the ads themselves, display keywords, regular keywords, or search keywords, different topic rules, placement rules, audience rules, age range rules, gender rules, parental status rules, and income range rules.
I love it.
And you can set these up with one time, multiple time, various times throughout the day. There's what I found, it looks like there's hundreds of different ways that you could set up these automated rules. I found a blog post and a 2-minute video of how-to from another search agency online, and made note of a couple of great ideas of where you could do this. One of them is automatically pause keywords that aren't producing conversions, what he referred to as dead weight keywords.
Nice.
Another one is increase or decrease bids on certain keywords when they aren't reaching the expectations or drop onto a certain page one position. So like if you're averaging, like, let's say you want your stuff always be like no lower than 1.2 or something, or 1.5, something like that. You can set it to adjust the bid to up or down if you want to cancel it. Another neat thing is you can set up these automations to either send you a notification via email, say, hey, this is going on, please review, or take action.
Yeah, and which I think the automated rules are really great, especially for those who are being budget conscious, especially with lately the doubling of budget daily spend that we know Google can do. You know, if you don't have a tool in place, a pacing tool,
right,
that can help you control that or keep tabs on it, that's a really great way to say, you know, you get a quick update to say, oop, like this hit our threshold or it overspent. It's not out of line, but to let you know. But I think really what you've done with it is been great to say start, stop. And it actually, the rule works more effectively than what I've noticed from an auto start date on a campaign. Previously, I've tested a lot of auto start dates on campaigns, and I don't trust them because I've had them that fail, meaning they won't start.
Yeah.
Where the rules very much start and stop, but it's because that campaign is already running. So I think it's you know, to further validate your point, things that you want to have happen inter-campaign is I think it's really great.
Yeah.
And I think we certainly have been using them more. I think more people should use them, depending on your base.
I'm definitely going to dig into some of these further options and move forward. I think it's a tool that you can keep in your toolbox that you can use it and take advantage of it, and especially the more you use it, the more refined you can. This, don't get me wrong, this isn't Ron Popeil, don't set and forget it.
No,
still monitor it, but it's you still. These events. I scheduled 60 days worth of events. My next event doesn't start till August 24th that I have to build out. So I have 1,000 events built that are going to start and stop. All the keywords are in there. My bids are set.
And I think the caveat is that there is going to be some skepticism as to whether or not it works.
I'm checking it daily.
So we're it's monitored daily. We've also done a series of tests before we said, let's roll it out over 60 days to see how this is going to work.
Always
but
test.
You certainly want to try it before you buy it.
Right.
And so if there's ever anything that you are feeling skeptical about, I think that's a good approach is just run a small test, see if it works, and go from there. So that's really great. I have heard too, scripts are another thing we could discuss in future episodes. But I have heard of people applying rules and scripts together. So the one that I'm the most intrigued about is being able to pull weather data in, which is difficult because you're leveraging third-party data sources. But perhaps I run a company that is dependent on, this is sad, I know, but it happens, natural disasters or rain, snow.
You're an umbrella manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, correct. I'm an umbrella manufacturer. And I want to sell more umbrellas when there is bad weather or inclement weather coming. So if inclement weather, then increase bids by 25%. So you have the combination of the rule and the script. So the script basically scrapes or pulls data that says, oh, it's going to rain, push the rule of plus 20 or 25% bid strategy in that region.
You see that at street vendors all the time. Those umbrellas suddenly go 50% more expensive as soon as it starts raining.
That's right. Totally.
And the basket of umbrellas gets pushed closer to the door so the people on the street can see it.
This is good. Well, there's your offline tactic now. All right. Cool.
All right. So a little bit of recent news before I really dive into my actual topic is that Google My Business recently rolled out agency dashboards.
Yes.
And so far, the sentiment has been not so great about it. So the benefit of this agency dashboard is that you can manage more than 100 properties as an agency, where instead of if you did it the old way, you were limited to under 100 properties. And what I've seen from people who've been trying to migrate their existing properties over to this dashboard is just like not working.
It seems to be a little bit of a headache. It's a pain point, it seems. It's not real seamless.
Yeah. So I have put that on hold because the way that we've been doing it has been working just fine. But I have seen some chatter among industry folks on Twitter saying that, if you currently don't have any sort of agency level involvement in your clients' campaigns, where you might be managing through your clients' logins or something like that, where you want to start an actual agency presence, I guess, managing Google My Business listings, that you can start with this agency setup, and you should have no problem because you're not actually migrating your.
If you're fresh in the game, that makes sense.
I think the other place where it will probably make a significant impact, hopefully, or it's an inroads, when for those that are running that both have, let's say, tabs on their local presence, and you want to link that data with Google AdWords. That's where it becomes a challenge, because let's say I'm a retailer, I have 10 stores, we're running AdWords. My agency is running AdWords. And we want to link, as the agency, we want to link to Google My Business. The problem is that you actually either need to be set as the owner of that, which makes a lot of businesses, like that's a real touchy. That's a real touchy thing. Like I'm turning ownership over, even though you can revert it back, right? Like the agency can provide ownership back. And a lot of times it needs to be accessed, the AdWords site needs to be accessed through the email address that's actually associated with as the owner of GMB. I don't know. We'll test it with a couple coming up. We have a couple cases actually coming up where we'll be able to test it, where that integration will probably be much easier. I would put a considerable amount of donations into a hat that says that's the real reason why we're seeing some sort of an agency panel there, is that advertisers need to be connected to GMB data and can't without a real weird workaround. So that could be an easier solution. Yes, it feels like a headache to get them connected, but once it is, then you can manage the push and pull of data from AdWords and GMB.
Cool. Well, we'll keep an eye on it and share some updates as we come across them.
Sweet.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about today is content and user experience.
You're talking about content?
Oh, weird, huh?
And user experience?
So we've written on our blog about human-centered SEO before, and we often preach about the importance, or I would say necessity, of human-centered content. And I've been working on a blogging best practices guide to share with our clients that touches on some technical SEO best practices related to blogging, but also covers some basic tips on creating content that matters, basically. Content that matters for your site, yes, but most importantly, content that matters for your audience. And so as we know, SEO has evolved over time to be, more than just using the right keywords or being associated with the right keywords through links. Of course, that's still part of it. But it's not necessarily a game of whoever uses the most keywords wins, or whoever accumulates the most links wins. I actually listened to a really interesting podcast from Seth Godin, his new podcast, Akimbo, and I'll link to that in the show notes, that kind of covers the short history of how Google works and how it has changed over time. So I'll link that. This is kind of going to be like a weaving around before I get to my final point, I guess. But Jason, you have mentioned in the past the role of SEO and brand, and we've both listened to the Moz Pod on the role of SEO in branding, and the Akimbo podcast I mentioned touches on this as well. I stumbled upon an article this week as all these thoughts were going through my head, and it's from a website, UX Matters, and it's called The Role of Content and User Experience. And it hits on a few important points to consider for content that can also contribute to your SEO and your brand perception. So I would say the number one rule to remember when creating content for your website is to create something you yourself would find value in if you were in that audience. And, if you wouldn't be interested in it, don't publish it.
That's right.
And I'd say that's pretty easy, but in a world where we're still coming off this idea of you need to be churning out content, I think we're leaning more towards quality than quantity, which is great. But I think a lot of people still subscribe to that idea of I need to be publishing. Don't publish just for the sake of publishing. And go ahead.
It's a great concept. On the other side, it's us as an agency here. We're sometimes writing content for some of our clients.
Yes.
And we're not necessarily sure we're writing something that SEO or that CEO would read.
Well, but I think that and that's where I would probably push back a little bit on that notion, Ashley, too, is that what we would write as individuals, as personalities, versus what the audience and so just making sure that we understand I guess let's reset the tone of that is that you need to understand your peoples and your audience, and so understand where they're at, how they're searching, what they're looking for, and things like that, and then put yourself in their shoes, Pat, to your point, to say you might not approach it and say, I'm going to produce a piece of content around this because I'm not interested in it. You're not the audience. So we really have to vet, whether it's interview, talk to people who are buying those types of product services and really understand it. So
I'm sorry, I meant to qualify that. So if you were in that audience, would you find this interesting? That's what I meant.
Okay. And that's where I think those conversations are very important, is that you pick the phone up. So even if you are an agency working on behalf of your client, are you having those discussions with the end user? Are you able to have those discussions with the end user to say, what about this? Why that? What if? If you're not, that could hold you back from really producing that next level content.
Right. Content that's actually going to be useful.
Yeah, 10x, right? That's the other theme, buzzword.
Yes. So beyond publishing content that's going to be helpful to your audience, there are some other areas to consider in this article that I found from UX Matters. They touched on the idea of first impressions. So once somebody lands on your content, an element of personalization, and this could be as simple as regional personalization. It's not necessarily like, hi, Patrick, welcome to our website. But if you're a company that serves people in multiple markets across the country, make sure that you're using dialect that is really going to speak to people who land there from that specific region. Talk like the locals do. And this bridges the connection and makes them feel more inclined to keep engaging with you because you've made, this is going a couple levels deep, but you've made that effort to connect with them, where they're coming from. And it's just going to be a subconscious, I'll keep reading. And then as far as first impressions, also avoiding marketing speak. That can be a negative trigger or might signal spam. Using phrases that are too extreme, such as number one, we're the number one such and such. Like there's a time and a place to be touting yourself, but that can really turn people off. Or calls to action like do it today. Or I don't know if you've ever come across those pages that somehow, I guess if a website's been hacked or something's going on that shouldn't be, your page reloads and you get those, congratulations, you've won an Amazon gift card. And so if you have some kind of messaging along the lines of congratulations, you found us or something like that, it's going to turn people off. So think about when you're writing those calls to action or, trying to invite people to engage with you on a deeper level, think about and consider and use, from going back to your point, Jason, real world experience and interaction with your audience. Think about what your audience really wants to hear and incorporate that into your content. And it will be different depending on what your specific offerings are. And then the last point is creating staying power and getting people to return. And it's going to be the quality, which I know is a loaded word, I guess, but the quality of your content. Great content is what will keep your audience engaged. And if what you produce and share is low quality or otherwise doesn't meet the needs of or the expectations of your audience, they're not going to want to keep interacting with you. And so really investing that time and understanding what people are looking for and what people need, what people expect, and how that relates to what you can offer them through your content and your website. That can not only impact how you interact with one particular person who might land on your site, but then that can also become part of your overall brand reputation. So I'm trying to circle it back, I guess, and say that, creating content that is useful, that people want to share, and that shows the value that you offer as a brand, as a company, as an organization, that's going to contribute to your overall reputation. And this kind of all loops back into the idea of SEO contributing to brand, because SEO brings people to your website. Providing good content will keep them on your website. That will contribute to your engagement and people wanting to spend more time with you. And
obviously a more engaged user or a more engaged audience is something that's being recorded by Google. So
exactly. So that's all I have to say about that.
But I think there's another good point to pull out there too. You touched on it a little bit with, the mention of talking more the language that your users use and speak with. We've had this discussion a number of times with various companies, and over the years of doing what we do here at Black Truck is that while your brand has a certain tone is different, voice, if you will, you might have a way that you talk about your services. That's not necessarily how your customer base talks about the services or searches for the services. So while we want to have brand inflection might be the phrase that I use, there's a fine line between, does anybody really understand what you do? Because we're talking in not in circles, but we're talking very vaguely about it, versus just being right up front and call it what it is and talk about it more openly. That would be my biggest advice if we were to match that up with what you've talked about in developing really, really great content that resonates with a customer base. Is like, man, you really have to get in and understand how they're looking for it, why they're looking for it. Is your content even remotely associated with that? The answer is no. It's time to reevaluate that. No different than quality score. In AdWords, we could see a quality score that's really poor, and literally it could be changing a few keywords on the landing page to get that quality score to change. So it's no different than what you might do from changing the language in SEO world. So no, that's great. Good share. Good find. I think there's some additional blog content coming up from everybody here. So I'm going to wrap this episode up. Having just returned from SearchLove Boston this last week, did a solo trip out there. My head's still kind of reeling with a lot of great information. Had a little bit of time here and there to digest my notes, and there are a lot of excellent speakers this year out there. Hats off to the team at Distilled. If you're not familiar with SearchLove, it's a series of events put on by the team at Distilled, which is a London-based SEO firm, a couple other locations here in the States, but really great event if you're looking for in the weeds SEO, knowledge share, thought leadership. It's where you're going to go and sit through a 45-minute presentation on server log file analysis and things like that. So if that's not your thing, but I digress. So looking over my notes, looking at the highlights and areas, what I'm doing, and I'm still going through a lot of them. I took actually a good amount of notes, is that what I see that kind of surfaces to the top and that I can highlight is it's in line with not only the trends that we've been talking about for 2018, or maybe even before we got to 2018 and beyond, but really, from my perspective, it makes logical sense from a search marketing direction and where Google is headed. So a lot of that started with the kind of the kickoff to everything was Will Critchlow, the CEO of Distill, talking about his talk was from the horse's mouth, what we can learn from Google. And this talk was very much on keeping an eye on and reading the output of Google. So what they're saying, whether it's patents, whether it's what, John Mueller's been doing a lot more like webmaster style hangouts and I call them Ask John. But what Will cautions is that you really need to keep your own audience and your own processes in check when you're looking at what they're saying. It's that notion of, am I going to chase the algorithms, or am I going to continue to do good online marketing to grow SEO? And what Will's saying is and I'm a believer in this, is it isn't always the reality. So what Google is saying isn't always necessarily true. So you need to have some chops in the space to be able to back up what you're going to do and the strategies you're going to deploy. So I'm not saying don't believe Google, like don't believe the hype, but maybe proceed with caution if you're going to believe the hype. If Google says tomorrow we're going to switch to only indexing 160 character meta page descriptions, don't make a knee-jerk reaction, right? Get pissed and go and change all of your stuff back, right? If Google, I made the reference before about subdomains, I think it was in episode 48 maybe, or 47, talking about subdomains and whether or not Google renders those the same as directories and folders. I will argue that point all day long, that is not a great approach, but Google's going to say it's okay. I don't think it is. So you got to have some wherewithal to navigate those waters. So standouts from SearchLove, I'll get off my soapbox because I think what Will hit on was really, really great. Was biggest thing was not voice search. Voice search was touched on once in 2 days of SearchLove Boston.
Oh, is it starting to fade out?
I don't know. Maybe plateau. I'm not sure.
Oh, looks like that's not panning out, huh?
Yeah. So we might have to eat crow on that as Pat's prediction at the beginning of the year. However, and really, no discussion about mobile first index. I think we're gonna see a lot more of that with when we all go to MozCon. Excited to have some conversations with former guest of the Redirect, Cindy Crum, talking about the mobile first index. I think her talk is specifically on entities and the concept of entity first versus mobile first or any other device first. But so the big things that I picked up on were structured data is probably the biggest thing that should be at the forefront of your discussions and certainly on a checklist when developing a new site. That's a prime opportunity to deploy such a strategy, whether if you're going to go through and make revisions and do some updating and things like that. The biggest language is going to be definitely JSON LD. This has superior organization to other forms, And you don't have to include everything if you don't want to. It's not necessarily needed like it used to be. So there's certainly going to be some more information out there. Ruth Burr-Reedy had a really great talk about actually firing a lot of structured data through Google Tag Manager. So instead of doing structured data inline, using Google Tag Manager to go with that approach. So there's certainly some interesting things to touch on there. The other things are JavaScript versus HTML. Some really great insights there. I guess a reference would be in terms of the amount of time that it takes and the resources that it takes Googlebot to get through, say, flat HTML versus JavaScript. A lot of sites now are heavy JS. HTML is like eating it's like a ready-to-eat cake, where JS, the Google browser, so Google and your browser, have to do all the steps involved to make the cake before you can eat the cake, if that makes sense. So in order to get through JS and render everything, it actually takes a lot more bandwidth to load. And so like the median phone to load, so mobile, talking about mobile, the median phone, some tests have shown 19 seconds to load to first paint. So first paint being the first actual content that's rendered that's worth value. That was kind of a big WTF moment for me. I'm like, who the hell is waiting 19 seconds for content to load?
Way.
Nobody is.
Site's broken. I'm moving on.
Right. Exactly. So Greg Gifford from Dealeron did a fantastic job and killed it with this, I don't know, over 100-slide presentation on local search. Probably one of the most, along with like Google Shopping, probably one of the most volatile areas right now. There's a lot of changes, Ashley, as you've talked about before, on local search and what does it look like to try and rank, really well in local search. Things such as proximity, where are you getting your business listings from, and things like that. So some really interesting things like that coming out. There's certainly some things that I can't necessarily talk to because Distilled has a nice thing called Give It Up that we can't talk about those things. So that's okay. But I think that too, there were a couple things that always come up. GDPR was brought up a number of times, but it was almost like nobody really gave a rat's ass about GDPR either.
It came and went.
So the implications are ongoing.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's the deal. And in our discussions with legal teams and things like that, nobody really knows yet what's going on. So the only other one I wanted to touch on, because it really loops back to a number of things that Pat has touched on before, and that's visual search, image search, looking beyond keywords. Jess Schultz really touched on this. But her focus was primarily on image recognition. And this really opened my mind to not image search, but image recognition. The real key takeaway there that I'm going to leave you guys with is image search. So text-based image searching to explain what you are looking for is very challenging. It's very limited versus I could scan or take a photo with my phone and say, find me 5 more of these, or find me something like this. The context there versus how we can verbalize what we're seeing is so far removed from one another that there's a lot of future happening there.
Right.
And it's beyond image alt tags. This is very much like spatial recognition. Yeah, it's nuts.
It's all those security tests that we have to do before we log into.
And I'll tell you, what does it all come back to?
Captions.
Marking up your images with structured data. So again, structured data is certainly what we have going on in the search world. If you're not having those discussions with your team, have them. Start to understand how you're going to weave that into your site. You need to be smart in your marketing moving forward here. And so what she really nailed on was like, we're such a visual society, and cutting out the keyword step from the customer journey is like, I think we're on the cusp, I think is where she's going with this, is we're right on the cusp, especially when it comes to shopping and commerce. We're on the cusp of cutting out the actual keyboard to say, I want to buy this. It's the opportunity. There are some apps out there, and there's certainly some retailers that talk about GDPR nightmare. Can I take a photo of someone walking down the street and say, I want that outfit? Yeah, I don't think that's the future. That's pretty much a reality for some things that I've seen. So, can we search by camera? How do you create that into a better experience? And then AR, not giving people a reason to look at their phone. The concept is to give people a reason to look through their phone. So you're using your phone you're much more immersed in the experience to be able to see what's going on there.
What you just described, like people walking down the street in an urban setting, and people passing by, like a little tag above them saying, "This blouse is from Target."
Yeah,
Then I was thinking AR.
Yeah. That was in Back to the Future 2, I think it was actually. So so a lot of interesting stuff to happen. Again, our entire team in just a few weeks will be out in Seattle. Any of our listeners, if you're in Seattle, we'd love to connect while we're there at MozCon. So do check out show notes, listen to previous episodes of the Redirect Podcast, and until next time, good luck.
This has been the Redirect Podcast. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com and add us on iTunes and Stitcher.